Good day everyone and welcome to this new Backstage episode. I'm Ludo for Xbox Squad and I have the pleasure to be joined by a very talented person, Luis Antonio, who is the creator of 12 Minutes, a game highly anticipated, talking about a man trapped in a time loop. Hi Luis, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm pretty good. Thank you for having me, Ludovic.
Thank you for joining, it's a real pleasure. I believe it's super busy for you at that time.
Yeah, we're the final stages of the game, trying to bring everything together and release as soon as possible. So yeah, a lot going on.
Great, great. Before we talk about the game, I would like you to introduce a bit yourself and tell us about your journey in the video game industry. When have you started? What was the motivation to do it? And what have decided you to make some video games?
It's gonna be a long answer. So yeah, I studied fine arts in Lisbon, in Portugal. I wanted to be an illustrator originally, and then a friend of mine showed me some 3D packages, like Studio Max and Maya, and I got really interested. So by the end of university, I wanted to leave the country, and I looked around, and UK was close enough. Rockstar Games was hiring, so I applied. I got in. I started to work with them. I was there for like 3 years. Then I wanted to try something else. I got an opportunity with Ubisoft in Quebec, in Canada. I moved there. I was lead artist, art director. Then I got a bit tired of AAA stuff, and and I had an opportunity to work with Jonathan Blow on The Witness. So I left Quebec, moved to San Francisco. 3 years and a half, I think, finishing that game. And then, as we were wrapping up that game, I had this. I wanted to actually, during that game, I on my free time, I started to slowly work on 12 minutes as an idea. And then by the end of The Witness, I stopped working with Jonathan Blow and I started solo on this project.
Okay. So,
So,
beside the arts, I believe you were also playing. And
yeah.
what are your main gaming influence? And the bonus question will be, can you name your three top games?
Ooh. So it's kind of funny because my father was a programmer and my parents did not allow any consoles. So my childhood there was no Super Mario, there was no Zeldas, I was a full PC gamer. So my big influences is young stuff like Monkey Island games, the Another World, or I think it has another name depending on the country.
Here it
What
was
else?
another world, yes.
Doom and Real. Yeah, this is the games I played when I was young. Um, yeah, I mean, there's so many games. Besides, like best games ever. Shadow of the Colossus is a pretty good one. There's a couple of games that I would say are important for me, and I think for the industry. Like Shadow of the Colossus is one. Papers, Please is a pretty good one. Daniel Benmergui, I don't know if you know any developer. His first games, Today I Die, and even the first storyteller that he made were pretty significant, I think, for the indie development. And Braid was pretty good too. Yeah, I'm gonna stop there with those three.
So you have a long list of influence. And so you've been working at Ubisoft and Rockstar, or Rockstar and then Ubisoft. And then you joined Jonathan Glove before working on 12 Minutes, as you said. What have you decided to go for indie development, and what kind of experience did you get from those big companies?
Um, so the main reason was just the way AAA companies work is very different from indies, right? There's this, it's a lot of people. It's like it's a big creature that moves very slowly, and all the decisions have to be profitable, right? Because there's so many people working for a single project, and I think that ends up, at least when I was in those companies, it creates this. A lot of decisions end up being changed because of marketing or because of I don't know, like opportunities for making money, and that was killing creativity often, and so I wanted to go work with people that are more focused in making a product that is not affected by these money making decisions. So that was the main reason. Like there was a few projects at Ubisoft before I left that they just kept getting canceled or changed, and I was fed up of that. But what I learned there, well, I learned on the other hand, the big companies, yeah, they have this. They're very organized and very talented. Like I learned a lot about right all process of making a game from start to end, from the concept stage, knowing how to the version control, like right how to organize files, organize the data, communicate between the departments, and all the end. Like the end, people think, oh, you're just done, but no, there's like from localization to the porting to all the checks that you have to make to release in console and optimizations and all that. So that was a pretty good, because when I went indie, I actually realized a lot of indies are sometimes a bit lost in the practicality of making a game. They think that once they've done the game, it's kind of ready to release, but there's still like usually a lot to do after.
Okay. And then when you decided, so when you left Jonathan Glow and then decided to go for working on your own game, you have started alone, or have you started already with a team where you surrounded by people, or?
So my main thing was always an artist. I was doing environments and characters, and actually during Ubisoft, I was working on this concept of the 12 of repeating the same day. That was the idea, right? The repetition of living the same day over and over, Groundhog Day style.
Yeah.
And what I tried originally was to get a team, right? Because I don't know how to program. So I got a programmer and I get an animator, but no one wanted to work on their free time. So slowly I realized I'll need to do this by myself. So when I was working with Jonathan, that's when I realized a lot of indie developers, they just learn to program. So I learned to program, and yeah, I started to work by myself on everything. The first maybe year and a half was just me. I mean, after I left The Witness and started to work on this game, and then once the prototype was really solid, I started to bring people in to do the animation, the music, the sound design, etc.
Okay, it must have been a lot of studying and learning.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. Programming it was all. That's another thing. Like in the other studios, the designers didn't know how to program, which was interesting because a designer has an idea, like let's do a level that does this, but then you get like a bunch of programmers to do the programming, and then the designer, oh, I want it actually like this, and then the programmers do it. So there's a lot of waste on, like, it's like you say you're an artist, but you don't draw. You get someone to draw for you, and then if the drawing doesn't look the way you want it to look like, right, you ask him to redraw. But in indie world, the designer knows how to program. So you have an idea. Like I remember Jonathan, he would have an idea. He goes into a room and he comes back and he made the idea. So the iteration process of creating something is really fast.
Okay, yeah, more dynamic, more flexible, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, more personal too. Yeah.
Okay, but I believe, yeah, in both cases, working for bigger companies and working alone or for indie games, they both have advantage and disadvantages. Yeah, what would they be for you?
Um, well, it depends on what you like, right? I think they all think something as negative or not. It really depends on your perspective. Like big companies, you can specialize, like which is what I thought I wanted to do. I wanted to really be a character artist.
Okay.
So you have like you could have an Assassin's Creed, and I'm just focusing on making the characters. Actually, the high resolution ZBrush model of the characters, I wouldn't even worry about optimizing them and putting in the game. While in indies, you have to do everything, right? On The Witness, I did from the website to the trailer to the actual environments to writing to help with tools or figure out shader stuff. So yeah, I mean, depends on what you like doing. If you like being responsible for a lot of things and have a lot of ownership, indies is easier. But if you like to focus on one thing that you do well and don't have to worry about, there's a lot of unknowns in the indie world, I think. While in the big companies, you can stay in your comfort zone a lot more.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You focus on one area of
That you
development,
do
but
well, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, exactly, and you kind of grow in that area.
okay, okay. And so after those years of development and working in the games, uh, would you consider to go back to big companies, or have you found the right spot for you?
It's- like the thing is that some of these companies are changing. I know people, and I know they're kind of adapting, right? Because they've seen that the way the indies can flow easily through development is something they're slowly starting to do. Also, tools are a lot more accessible. They're no longer write your own engine if you want to do a game. Um, so maybe like I working on 12 minutes makes me miss having a team and people full time. It's kind of hard to have everyone coming in and out of a project. So I miss having a team, but I don't know if I want to be back into like a 300 people team where you're crunching all the time and you have all these hierarchies and meetings, a lot of meetings that don't aren't really useful. So
Okay, I see.
I don't know. Like I miss having a team, but not the office idea of a studio.
Yeah, yeah. That's something you can reproduce later on, maybe for a future project with the experience you
Yeah,
got by creating a bigger team around you.
yeah. Like I think I would do like a small core team of like 5, 6 people, and then other people that come in and out depending on the needs of the project,
Okay.
something like that.
And then um, you have showed the first, not really showed the first trailer at E3 2019 because I think the game has been in a long time in
Yeah.
development and it has been showed on some exhibitions for indie games. What has been the impact for you by having that trailer shown at E3 2019?
Um, yeah, so yeah, you're right. Like, so the first time I showed the game was at PAX East 2015, and there was actually a trailer that I made, which if you Google it online, you'll find it's just a clock, and it's a really old trailer. But that was kind of just that was me trying to see if the game was worth pursuing and to look for publishing. That was the goal of that initial display of the game. Showing it at E3 in 2019 was pretty big. It was because I didn't know how people would react to the game. Right, that was the first real presentation of the game to the world, and most games are very focused on action and explosions and scoring, and this one is very subdued. So I was really happy to see that people got hooked and really curious to see how the game plays. I was not expecting, and also like during that E3 we had a room with the build of the game, and we had journalists coming in during 3 days nonstop. So they were playing the game and they were loving it. So that was very reassuring to know that I think we're doing something pretty cool. Like it was kind of a confirmation that we're we're spending our time
Okay,
properly. Yeah.
yeah. Um, let's talk a bit about the game now. Let's go to the details of the game. Can you explain what the game is about and introduce it?
Yeah, so 12 Minutes is an interactive thriller about a man trapped in a time loop. You play as the husband, you're coming home from work, you're having an evening with your wife, and then this cop shows up. He accuses your wife of murder. You try to stop it, he beats you up, you pass out, and you go back to the start of the day. And then you have to use the knowledge of what you know it's going to happen to try to change the outcome and break the loop. It's all top down, everything happens inside an apartment, and it's all in real time, and it's focused on these three characters the whole time.
And can you tell us a bit about the origins of the game, where the idea come from, and also how did it evolve? Was it the concept as it is now since the beginning, or is it something that changed over time?
It changed. I was just gonna say I forgot on my elevator pitch to mention that it's like it's top down. It's you can click where you move and you combine items, so it's a bit of a I would say like a point and click with more of an action adventure kind of game. I always forget to say this. The influences, yeah. So it started, yeah. It's like I said before. It started with exploring the accumulation of knowledge, right? What happens if you repeat the same situation over and over, and I wanted to see like how interesting that could be. Early on, I was doing stuff like it was like a full day, and I was thinking it could be in a town, thinking really, really ambitious. But then I realized that the more open-ended the world is, the harder it is to see the outcome of your actions. So once I realized this, I started to compress and compress the experience into the smallest thing it could be, where right, instead of like early on, I had the thing where like you'd have a car accident and your boss is late to work, you go into your office, you hack your computer to get the password to do like,
Yeah.
but to convey to the player that causing a traffic accident is going to make your boss late to access the computer is just too confusing. So by compressing this to real time in a small amount of time, you can see very quickly, like if you lock the door, this guy's going to take longer. If you don't lock the door, he's going to be fast. Like you really see really quickly the outcome of your actions. So that was it, constraining it to a small space and then allowing you all the possibilities in that space. So you don't feel you're limited by like what is there. Once you know how to play the game, that's it. That's all you're going to have until the end. And everything you try usually works the way you expect to.
Okay. And do you always play the same character in the game? Because there are many 3 characters, I think.
Yeah.
Do you switch between them or?
No, always the husband. You're the only one who keeps memory of everything that's happening. So yeah, he learns every loop that you play. He learns from what has happened. So, like right once you know the cop is coming, you can tell to the wife, "Hey, there's a cop coming." Once you learn more, you can tell her more. And the character itself is also learning. So when he says things, he's faster at saying something. Like for example, if he's trying to say he's leaving the same day. After the 5th time, he doesn't say, "Look, honey, I think I'm leaving the same day." He'll be like, "Look, I'm leaving the same day. This is what's happening." So he's also learning, and his personality keeps kind of evolving as he go through the experience.
All right. So after multiple loops, you will have different scenario options and.
So the idea is that your actions will always create the same result, but the way he approaches them will be more optimized, right? You won't. Like at the start, he's as confused as you. Like the first time it restarts, he's like, "What's happening? Did the day just start?" But after 5 loops, he knows what's happening. Yeah. After 10 loops, he already is more comfortable with what's happening. So he kind of grows with the knowledge, but the outcome of your actions is always the same, so that the player knows what to expect.
All right.
Like I really want to remove any frustration out of the experience.
Yeah, to avoid being it repetitive.
Yeah, like your actions always have the same reaction. So there's no surprises.
Okay. And you said there are many actions and combinations. You can use objects. What is to be expected in the game?
So the way it works is that right, you have normal house stuff. Like there's a glass on the table, there's a knife, there's and then you can combine it with things. So for example, you can grab a mug and it goes in your inventory, and then you can drag those objects you pick up. So for example, if you drag the mug to the sink, he fills the mug with water. If you drag the mug to your character, he drinks the mug with water. But you could also drink the mug with water to the wife, right? And you'd be offering her a glass of water. So it's by finding items in the apartment and then combining them in order to achieve different results, right?
Okay.
The door, locking the door. I'm trying not to spoil the game. That's why I'm being very vague. And then the dialogue options keep growing as you learn more things about what's happening.
Okay. And who has written the scenario?
I did.
You did?
I wrote the story, yeah.
All right. And is there multiple ways to beat the game, or will there be multiple endings?
So being a time loop game, right, where you're repeating the same day over and over, how does it end was a big question. So you'll reach something that you'd say it's a satisfactory outcome to this experience, but I don't think the ending it's like a movie, right, where you get the credits and you turn it off. It's a bit, because it's an interactive experience, there's some other things to it that are going to be kind of a surprise, I hope, for the players.
All right. And the game, as you said, has shrunk a bit, so now it's a very limited environment. What's the expected lifetime for the game?
So play testing so far, if you're good at puzzle games, like 6 to 8 hours. Other people take a bit longer. It really depends on how deep you want to go into the rabbit hole. But
Okay,
yeah, I would say 6 to 8 hours is the average from starting to what you would call an ending to the game.
all right. And why choosing a top-down view?
Um, so when I started programming, and this is kind of a principle I've applied as a game developer, is like I won't add anything unless I need to add something. And when I started designing the game, I was like, what am I going to do? First person, third person? Um, and I was like, let's start really simple, top down. So early on, I wanted the game to be like 2D almost, right? Where you just see the top down and they just
Mhm.
move into dimensions. And as I developed, I never had a reason to change the camera. I mean, when you look through the door, for example, you have a first person view, or if you open the fridge, you see the inside of the fridge. So you change camera, but having the camera from the top down, I realized it allows you to navigate very easily. So the whole game, you just need to use the mouse and press a button. I mean, you can use the gamepad, of course, but it's very accessible. Like it's one of my main goals was a game for people that don't play games. So I've had like my mother play the game and she's like 70, my wife who hates video games and she plays it. So getting people who are not comfortable with games, uh, like people who enjoy a good movie should be able to sit down and enjoy this without struggling with the controls. And the top down was a big thing to allow this fluidity of interaction.
All right. And it's very cinematic.
Yeah, and it looks cool. I think it works.
And so I guess there are quite a lot of influence from the cinema. Can you tell us a bit the influence that are in the game?
Yeah, like I would say that the biggest influences are by far how film is able to use its tools to tell a story. You know, like how they right? If they want something static, they put the camera against a more of a flat plane, something dynamic, the camera might shake, you know, the clothes the actor uses, the colors, the pacing. So trying to see how to use those features into game design, you know, what are the clothes that they wear, how the characters talk to each other. And then how some movies do this. Like I'm always in some examples, like how in Memento, right, Christopher Nolan changed the order of the scenes which allowed for you to experience the memory loss of the main character, or how in The Shining, you know, like how the architecture is a bit weird and it kind of matches the. You feel always feel confused a bit like Jack going into this mental state, or Hitchcock in Rear Window, right, where the whole movie you're in the balcony, right? You perceive what's happening on the building in front the same way the main character does without knowing like did someone just die, is that guy the killer, what's going on. So creating those limitations and following some of those rules, I try to do that to make it more cinematic.
Okay. And also with some reference like the carpet in
Yeah,
the
from
other.
this Shining, yeah.
Yeah.
That might change, that carpet, but I really like it and everyone seems to
Yeah, yeah.
like it
It,
or
it,
not.
it
Yeah.
looks good and it has a nice reference, so that's really cool. Um, yeah, talking about movies still, you said, I will quote you, uh,
Yeah.
if we had to compare video games with movies, we would still be in black and white and silent movie era. Can you
Uh,
explain a bit what you mean by that?
So what I meant by that was a longer conversation, and they just sliced that part. But it's more about, you know, like movies when they started, right? Like they were filmed like theater, right? They were you wouldn't you would film it like you were sitting down in a theater and seeing this whole image, and then one day someone was like, let's do a close up, let's zoom to someone's head, let's change the editing techniques, and I think you can compare this to games, right? Like early games, you would have this thing of you have a goal, you're gonna win, you're gonna have a score, you have like these Pac-Man style games, and slowly we're like, oh wait, we can tell stories with games, like, and this is why I meant like Papers, Please, or Today I Die. They're like, or Journey is a good example. They're games that they're able to carry strong emotional themes throughout the narrative. It's not just winning or losing. And I think finally, very slowly, games are kind of like Red Dead Redemption is the last one is a good example of this. They're becoming pretty big in terms of what they're trying to tackle or they're trying to say and the amount of interactiveness that's happening. Like I still think we're still stuck in this. The enemies have health, you have levels, you have a score, you're winning, you accumulate items. We're still this is what I mean by the leaving the black and white. We still have a lot of this luggage of the beginning of games and
Yeah.
games as I have nothing to do, I want to have some fun, right? And so I'm gonna open a game. But you don't do that with a book. With a book you're not gonna watch Schindler List for fun, you know?
Yeah.
Some movies you grow after you watch them, right? Or they can change your life depending where you are or what the message they have to say. And games, I mean, I think that's why I'm trying to promote 12 minutes as an interactive thriller, trying to keep the interactive aspect of it, but kind of go away from the game world where you just play to entertain yourself and spend your time, not to learn or to grow, even though, yeah, but it's changing. That's what I mean by,
Yeah.
I think we're slowly coming out of this black and white and, like now there's mobile games like Gorogoa. I don't know if you play that one or
No, no.
Florence. There's all these games now that are accessible to everyone. You can play them on the phone and they're very deep, like they deal with relationships and depression and emotions and deeper themes than just shooting and scoring.
Okay. And for the game, you had also a very strong casting for the voiceovers.
Yes.
So you work with James McAvoy, Daisy Ridley, Willem Dafoe. Can you explain how did you manage to do that? How did they embark on that project?
Like this game has been a very slow. It's been a slow process. So when I work on the prototype, the one I was telling you that I went on PAX East, and when I showed the game at PAX East, I had a very positive reaction, and I realized, okay, there's something interesting here, and I kept working on it. Then I partnered with Microsoft. They helped the first years of development, and the game kept growing even more. And during all that time, it was supposed to be with no voice acting, just dialogue balloons. And if
Yeah.
you see the prototypes from that time,
Yeah, I've
you have a
seen it.
balloon on top of the head showing the lines. But as the game started to get more real, and the whole game revolves around you believing in these characters. And then I started to speak with Anapurna Interactive because they have this connection with the movie world, and they both agreed, right? Look, if we bring this to a next level where we get some real quality voice acting, this experience might actually be much stronger. So we did some tests, and we were like, yeah, this really elevates the material. Like, if I'm doing this, I might as well go all the way. So yeah, then we slowly started the process of looking for actors that would be interested in the project, and that's it. And then we got our cast.
Okay. And was it
I make it sound easy, but it wasn't that easy. But yeah, this is a very resumed version.
And was it a new experience for them to work in video games? Because I've seen some video. We've seen the trailer about the voiceovers, and it must have been a lot of work with all those dialogue options. And is it something they were used to do?
So Willem had already worked in some games. Daisy Ridley, I think she did some. She had done a VR title or something, and I think. James, I think it was his first game. But he already did some audiobooks. Recently, he did, I think, the Sandman for Neil Gaiman. Yeah, it was. So the big challenge early on was actually even before we got our cast was to because all actors at some point they're like, oh, this project looks really interesting. Can I see the script? And you're like, the script is not linear. There's 10 documents with huge flowcharts
Yeah.
with all the possible dialogues, but none of them go start to end. So we had to solve that problem. First, figure out a way to Frankenstein kind of a script. And then we realized that actually that helped us get the actors to understand the characters.
Yeah.
And know who they are, where they come from, writing the bios for them. But then the challenge was actually breaking down all the dialogues into chunks that could be recorded. That was a lot of work, and yeah, and they were super patient. Like the first sessions, they were pretty tricky because they had to understand the space, right? Like, look, like they had to understand the beats of the experience so they could put their mindset into, okay, this, and this happened, this hasn't happened yet, and this might happen, and I've lived this many loops, and this, no, no, no. But after like 2 sessions, I think 2, 3 sessions, and they're really good. Like they got the swing of it, and they brought their own experience into the characters and elevated the material.
Yeah, from what we could hear already, it looks really good. And how much time did it take to record those voice performances?
We did a total, I think, like maybe 10 sessions of a full day each. And then they were alternating between them. Like we would just have them in a booth when there was two of them interacting. There's never three actors. I mean, there's some situations, but we would do this separate, so it was easier
Yeah.
to direct them. Yeah, it was about maybe a month and a half
Okay.
but it was interspeeded. Like the way we did it was we recorded some lines and then we put them in the game so we could see if they were working, right? So that the next session we could do adjustments if the performance had to change slightly, or the pacing, because a lot of lines are sometimes dynamic and they glue.
Yeah.
So making sure things would glue, or if someone is really, like someone is crying and sad, they suddenly don't get really relaxed, or making sure everything was flowing together.
Okay. And have they played the game or the prototype to
No,
understand?
no,
No.
no.
Okay.
I mean, they saw that. So we did a table read before we recorded, right? So they were all together, and we got them all to interact as the characters, so we could get a feeling for the relationships between them, right? How they're supposed to react to each other. And I showed them the prototype. They saw me play a bit to have an idea of, like, because a thing to understand is that since it's top down, you never see their faces.
Yeah.
So any big expressions you do with your face, they're worthless, right? You don't see any of that. It's all about body movement and the tone of the voice. So to making sure that the tonality of the voice would convey what usually you would get in a face, right? If someone is happy, you need an open mouth. You need the expressiveness of a, or if someone is sad, or someone is stressful, right? You need more of the breathing, and so getting all those pieces in order to get the same feeling from the top-down perspective.
Okay. And how much time did it take you to develop that game? Because I think I've seen in 2015 you were expecting to have it ready by 2017.
So that was the tiny version of the game. That was the
Okay.
version if the potential to grow it wasn't there, right? I mean, the idea itself started when I was at Rockstar, so a long time ago. But the actual work on it, I would say it started at the last year of the Witness, yeah, 2014 maybe. Then 2015 is when I had the prototype ready and I showed it to the world. Yeah, so it was around then. But yeah, it just kept growing. Like the story itself was completed early on, but how immersive it could be, it just kept, right. The opportunities was like, why wouldn't we do this if it's gonna make this much better than what it
Yeah.
is?
Okay. And after all those years, what do you think were the biggest challenges that you had in developing the game? Because there must be a lot of
So there's
things.
technical challenges. There's the technical challenges. I don't think they're worth mentioning, right? They change with each technology generation, right? I'm not struggling with I don't know, rendering polygons on screen. Apart from the technical challenges, I think the biggest one was how long it takes. Like early on, I was trying to focus on finishing this, but if I'm always looking at what's not the present moment, right? The end goal, I'm just stressing all the time. So accepting that this takes time was a big one. But development wise, which I think is more interesting for people, is the biggest challenge was cracking one issue was making the loop interesting, right? Because every time you restart a loop, it can get boring really fast because you know what's going to happen. So making that really refreshing was tricky. The second biggest challenge, which I'm really curious if people are going to agree that it's working or not, was the like when you play Super Mario, like Super Mario, if you do a jump and you fail the jump, you know why you failed the jump. You know, oh, I should have double jump, I should have run faster. It's you know why you failed. It's very clear. So there's no if there's frustration is from your actions, right? It's not the game that's obfuscating, like Tomb Raider. In Tomb Raider there were some levels you would turn a corner, get the spikes, and like, man, no one, you'd have to play the level again. So that's kind of not ideal design where you don't know what's coming. And the point and click genre, which I think was a big influence for 12 minutes, has this issue. I don't know if you played a lot of those games. Like
A lot, yeah.
okay, so you probably know that thing that there's a moment you just start mixing stuff because you missed a pixel or you didn't pick up this item that was hiding in this corner. And that's unfair. It just ruins the game. But I needed some of these rules into this kind of game because it mixes dialogue and interaction. So what I realized was by making the verbs very clear of what you can interact with, right? You have these items you pick up, like the glass, the knife, there's the plate, there's more things I'm not gonna say. Once you know the items you can pick up in the apartment, you know how they work, right? The game never tells you anything. You see a sink, you see a glass, it's very logical what's going to happen, and it happens exactly what you expect to happen. So once I knew these verbs and I stick to them, the frustration was gone in that sense. That there's no, like, if you cannot open the window when the game starts, you suddenly won't be able to open the window and jump out. It doesn't change, right?
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
no, you cannot drag the couch to block the front door because you cannot, like in a shooter, when you're playing a shooter, you don't think about dropping the gun and picking up a rock from the floor. So it's the same. Cracking that vocabulary so it's not frustrating was probably the biggest
Okay,
challenge.
all right. And then you had to find a publisher at some point, and you went to Anapurna Interactive. Can you tell us how did it happen? You contacted them, or they showed the game? They've seen the game?
So the way that happened was, so I started to work on a prototype while I was working on The Witness on my free time, without any desire to. I just wanted to see what happens with the idea. The moment the idea was I would show to friends and they were like, "Look, this is pretty cool." That's when I went to PAX, and PAX was the test to see are people going to enjoy this game. And they did. I got Rock Paper Shotgun, Kotaku, Polygon. They were all really enjoy the game. And then I was ready to see could this be financed, and I could, and any publisher I would approach, I could show them the prototype and what people are saying about it. And then it was finding someone that, right? Being in AAA, I didn't want someone who's like, look, let's put achievements here. Let's make DLCs. Let's get this ready in a year. So I had to find someone that would just let me do it my way. So actually, the first partnership was with Microsoft. The Idea at Xbox program. They were they really liked the game. They were like, look, we're gonna help you realize this. Take the time you need. We're there for you. And then after a year and a half, when the game started to grow, that's when I started to speak with Anapurna Interactive. It was kind of a mutual thing. Like, this is a project they were interested in, and there were people that I knew through the industry that I really appreciate them, and we felt we gelled together in terms of, right, this movie-like experience that I was trying to do. It's exactly what they want to do, and all other publishers, they were more game style driven. So after a while we partnered to get these. It's been 2 years now, I think, to get these final things done.
All right. And the game will be Xbox exclusive? Or PC?
It will be. It will. It will come out for PC and Xbox to start with. Yeah.
And now there are new ways of consuming video games, such as the Xbox Game Pass and the other streaming services. What's your view on that one?
Ooh, so so as a user, stuff like Netflix and Spotify are 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 easy, right? I want to listen to a song. I don't have to buy a CD or buy a single song, and I can try stuff out. But being on the other end as a developer, and like and knowing the struggles of musicians on Spotify and how it devalues a product, it's tricky, to like those those subscription services.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think we're gonna go their way. And as a user, I like that. As a developer, I think we need to find a way for this to work that you get rewarded properly as a from the work you do, so you can do more of it, and that users can still right enjoy the service. I think it will be the way to go. We just need to iron out some edges to make it smoother for everyone involved.
Okay. Great. And now looking back at again in the mirror with all the journey that you have taken, if you had to redo something, what would you change?
Ooh, what would I change? It's with hindsight, it's very tricky to ask that, right? It's all like a time loop, like if you know what's going to happen. What would I change? I think um, I would have. I think I would just change the way some aspects of the development were done. Like design-wise, I think I would keep everything the same, but just could have done things faster, right? But that's cheating. Like I didn't know that some things would go certain ways. Like we did a lot more animations than I thought we would do, so I would have hired more animators, stuff like
Yeah.
this, where or for example, figuring out the music for the game is much trickier than I thought because. Once you have voice acting, the music can early on the music was driving the emotions. But once we have voice acting, you have to change that, right? If I knew I would have voice acting, right? It's it's kind of a hard question because knowing what I know now, yeah, I would have made the production differently. But everything else was how long it's taking and everything. It's pretty enjoyable. Like I'm loving it. So no, I wouldn't change much.
Great. Great. So, and now, what are your plans for the future? Do you have already some projects in mind? And
Yeah, so first wrapping up this game. I think I have a pretty cool idea for a next game, and I'm trying to see how that could get made without the mistakes or or how long this one took. Yeah, I have a couple of ideas I want to try. I need to prototype them. Like we just spoke. Like yeah, I think this time I would have a core team instead of just being alone, like 3 or 4 people. Yeah, and just build a small team and work on the prototype. And if it's solid enough, then grow the team and do the product. And maybe take some time out. It's really hard to think about that right now because we haven't finished 12 minutes and it's right at the end. So probably first a break, like a few months doing nothing,
yeah,
and then prototyping.
okay. And when do you is the game still planned for 2020?
I would like to, but I honestly think it's gonna be probably 2021,
Okay.
early 2021. Yeah, uh, that's likely the what's gonna be. Yeah.
Okay, great. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to play that game. It looks very amazing. Um, okay, I think we reached the end of the questions here. So um, maybe for the ones who wants to follow your work and see what is going on with 12 minutes, where can you find you on the internet?
Yeah, so you can go to the website 12minutesgame.com. There's a development blog there. The news are there. You can go on Twitter 12 at 12 minutes game. That's like the latest development. Or follow me at Faca Elétrica. Um, and yeah, I can't wait to have the game out there for people to play. Like we're really close. A lot of people keep asking when does it come out. And I'm like we really want a polished experience, right? You can only play this once because it's all about knowledge. Once you know things, you cannot not know them. So, right, I want to make this the best experience possible, and that's why I'm taking as long as I need, but we're pretty close to getting this done. I promise.
Awesome. Great. Luis, thanks a lot for your time. It was
My
really much
pleasure.
appreciated. And I wish you good luck for the release of the game.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks a lot. And good
Thank
luck.
you.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
I have a surprise for you.
Okay.
You want to guess what it is?
This is an outfit for a newborn. You bought it this morning. You wanted to surprise me.
I'm sorry.
You're pregnant.
You know?
I know because you already gave it to me. This has happened before.
What are you talking about? What's going on?
Someone is coming. He's going to hurt us. He says you killed your father. I need to know what happened.
Why are you doing this? My father died.
Died of a heart attack?
No, I didn't have anything to do with...
Any second now, he's gonna knock on that door. Help me.
This isn't happening. This can't be happening.
Police, open up!
That's him.
Did you call the police?
We have a warrant. Please open the door.
I didn't do anything!
We're here to help.
Don't listen to him. I'm your only chance.
Open the door, right now!
You know me. I love you. You have to believe me.
Stop!
No.
You're under arrest!
No.
Hey!
You're home. What are you doing? Are you okay?